All right, so the thing everybody is talking about right now is the ending of the government shutdown, particularly the 8 Democratic caucus senators who decided to vote with the Republicans to end the shutdown. Then we have a vote and all that other stuff. I'm not going to get into the legislative aspect of it, maybe a little bit, but I want to talk about the electoral consequences and maybe for the Democrats, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Because we really do have two issues here. We have the government shutdown itself, and then we have Obamacare. So we'll talk about both of those, but we're going to look at it mostly through the lens of, does this help the Democrats or hurt the Democrats electorally? Now, let's go ahead and talk about the bad and the good. As we can see, we have the New York Times article here about those senators. And if we look at the senators who did vote, these 8 senators who did vote to end the shutdown or who are going to vote to end the shutdown, we can see that they're either retiring senators like Dick Durbin, okay, like Jeanne Shaheen, or they're senators that are not up for reelection. So they personally are not going to suffer any consequences from this. But let's go ahead and look at the first thing, which would be the bad messaging that hurts the Democrats now. Now that 8 Democrats, or 7 Democrats and Angus King, actually voted to end the shutdown, the Republicans can now use the government shutdown and say, see, it was the Democrats all along who had all the power to reopen the government. You can see that they reopened it. So therefore, it's the Democrats' fault for the government shutdown. This is going to be the message that we're also already seeing out of the Republicans. This is the message that they're going to go with for the next, until election, in the next 12 months. This will be their message. The Democrats caving on this gave the Republicans the narrative when it came to the messaging regarding the government shutdown. Now, with most government shutdowns, we talk about it for a few days afterwards, and then it kind of ends, and then we go upon our way. That's the way the American TikTok brain is kind of worked now, that we just move on to the next thing. But on a legislative aspect, Chuck Schumer should resign as the leader of the Democrats. Give Nancy Pelosi credit where credit is due. She kept the Democrats in line when it came to voting for things. She did not have many Democrats defect. This number of defection of Democrats over to essentially the Republicans to open up the government again, to basically screw Americans when it comes to Obamacare, was a horrible act of leadership on behalf of Chuck Schumer. He purely shows that he cannot be a leader that can keep his caucus together. So just from a legislative standpoint, he should resign as the majority leader. Somebody else should come in. Now, where can this have an effect overall? As I mentioned, most of these elections, most of these senators aren't up for re-election. And the 2 senators that are retiring, one's Dick Durbin, and that's going to be a Senate seat that's easily going to go Democratic. But then the other one is New Hampshire, and it probably will go Democratic, but this puts the Democratic Party in a bind. And you have Chris Pappas, one of the congressmen there now, who's going to be running for the U.S. Senate, now having to break with Jeanne Shaheen and others to say, hey, listen, I totally disagree. So you had the 2, Maggie Hassan and Jeanne Shaheen, actually voting with the 8 to actually get this ball rolling and ending the shutdown of the government. But Representative Chris Pappas says, no, I'm not going to do that. So he might be able to turn these lemons into lemonade for his campaign. It depends, I think, on how strongly he is when it comes to saying, yes, I strongly disagree with him. Right now, looking at the news that we see regarding Chris Pappas, he's been, I don't agree with him, and he's been kind of tepid. He hasn't been too strong, and that can hurt him. I mean, if we look at the polling right now that we have in New Hampshire, and I just pulled up Wikipedia here, we can see that John Sununu in the poll here, we can see that Pappas has barely beaten Sununu in a lot of the polls, and we have a lot of undecided voters. Now, when it comes to running against Scott Brown, and if you're wondering if it's that Scott Brown from Massachusetts, yes, it's that Scott Brown, you do see that Pappas has a big of a lead. So right now is his chance to determine whether he's going to be with Maggie Hassan and Jeanne Shaheen, or is he going to be his own person? All right. So electorally, it could be a problem. Okay, with the Democrats giving in. As far as legislatively, it is a horrible problem. But let's go ahead and look at some of the polls, because If we look at the polls, we get a different story than, let's say, what maybe the Democrats or Republicans have been telling us. When they ask, and this is a YouGov poll, October 31st to November 3rd. Now, before we get into the poll, I just want to make one thing real clear. I always say I don't like polls. I don't like them in horse races, Democrat versus Republican, because for some reason, when a poll has a Democrat or a Republican up by 0.5%, everyone automatically thinks that's a 100% win for that party. No. But when it comes to issues and looking at stuff and seeing how people splice apart when it comes to issues, it's actually a pretty good tool. So let's look at blame most for government shutdown. Okay. So we can see it's pretty even. 32% of Americans blame the Democrats, 35% of Americans blame Republicans, and then 27% say equally, with 6% not sure. That's pretty much a third, and a third for the most part. So it's not like the Republicans are really losing in this one. But if we break it down more, it is a little bit better for the Democrats. If we look at party identification, yes, we have 21% of independents actually saying it's the Democrats' fault, but 30% say it's the Republicans' fault. And 40%, of course, say it's both because they are independent. So it does show when we look at party identification that those who are independents or maybe unaffiliated voters are more likely to blame the Republicans than the Democrats. The Democrats get the least blame amongst that group. And if we look at people who are moderates, obviously the liberals are blaming the Republicans, the conservatives blame the Democrats. But if we look at the moderates, they're also blaming the Republicans by a significant amount. So only 18% of moderates blame the Democrats, but 35% of Republicans blame, 35% of moderates blame the Republicans, and 41% say both sides, which is no surprise. So let's go to the next one. Expand or repeal Obamacare. Because this might be the light, this might be the silver lining, the light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to campaigning on this issue, and it actually might help Democrats in the long run. Because let's put it this way. If people lose the Obamacare coverage, okay, if all of a sudden those subsidies are gone and people are going to have to pay hundreds, $500, $600, $700 a month for healthcare premiums, that's all of a sudden gone. A lot of people are going to lose their health insurance. And then it's going to make a lot of people realize, oh shit, I would have liked to have had Obamacare. So at the end of the day, I hate to say it this way, but having people suffer, again, I say it's bad legislatively, but having people suffer and know that it's the Republicans who really did cause this suffering, it could help the Democrats at the end. So let's go ahead and look at the poll where it says, should we expand or repeal Obamacare? 38% say it needs to be expanded. That's a plurality. So a plurality of Americans say Obamacare needs to be expanded. 22% say that it needs to be kept the same. So 60% of Americans say keep it the same or expand it. Don't touch it at all or do more with it. When it comes to repeal, it's only 24%. 1 in 4 Americans. Okay. And then 15% are the idiots that cannot figure out how this works and they say they're not sure. So we see 48% of Hispanics say expand it. Okay, 21% say keep it, 15% say keep it the same. Only 20% say repeal it. Okay, so we started seeing Hispanic voters shifting over to Democrats in the elections that we had last week. Something like this, not having Obamacare, can cause that shift to go back more and bring who used to be traditional Democratic voters back to the Democratic fold. So that's good if you're the Democrats. Now, I wanted to mention age here because I do think that this is kind of interesting. Of people 65 and older who by this point you don't benefit from Obamacare. You're on Medicare. Now you do have your issues with Medicare, supplemental insurance and stuff like that, but you don't have to worry about Obamacare. This isn't your issue anymore. 33% of people 65 and older say expand it. Okay, 22% say keep it the same. So a majority, 55% of 65 and older voters who don't even benefit from Obamacare are saying expand it or keep it as it is. Okay, of course they're going to have the highest of people saying repeal it because by that time they don't have to worry about it. But let's go ahead and go down to what I just mentioned. The votes, the ideology, the party ID. Obviously, Harris voters are more likely to expand it, but only 56% of Trump supporters say repeal Obamacare. Only 56%. Okay, so that is barely a majority. Now, there are 14% that say don't know. There are 9% of Trump voters that say expand Obamacare. I mean, that's ridiculous. If you're the Republican Party and your whole message for the last, God, how many years now? 15 years has been kill Obamacare, and yet 9% of Trump voters are still like, nah, we want more of it. And 21 of them are like, no, keep it, don't touch it. That's a defection that can go over to the Democrats. Now, if we go over to ideology, okay, only 58% of conservatives say repeal Obamacare. 18% say keep it the same, but 8% of conservatives say expand Obamacare. Go over to party ID. Only 53% of those who identify as Republicans say, let's repeal Obamacare. 21% say keep it the same. 7% say expand it. Now, if we look at moderates, we can see 36% of moderates say to expand it. 34% say keep it the same. So those who identify as moderates are like, nope, we're really good right now. You can add a little more, but we're really good. Only 13% of moderates say repeal it. And then with party ID, independents, only 18% say repeal Obamacare. The Obamacare issue is one that the Republicans cannot even win over 100% with their base, with a good, let's say 40% almost going against the grain, at least 30% going against the grain with them. Could this be an issue that keeps some Republicans home, or maybe they decide to vote for the Democrats in this one? Who knows? But the fact that 30% of Trump supporters are saying either expand Obamacare or keep it the same, that is a huge thing. That is important. So I do think at the end of the day, what's going to help the Democrats the most is the fact that people don't have Obamacare and unfortunately are going to suffer from it. And the Democrats can flip the blame back to them, say, see, this is why we did want government shutdown. Forget those 8 senators. This is why the rest of us wanted the government shutdown. We didn't want you to lose Obamacare. Now that you lost it, you see how bad it is? You see how bad it is? So there might be a light at the end of the tunnel. So right now, I think it hurts. I think it allows the Republicans to cast the blame on the Democrats. But at the end of the day, if there is no vote on Obamacare and Obamacare ceases to be, then it might, it might be a benefit for the Democrats. Now, on the other hand, there is one last thing we want to think of because Trump has done this a lot. This is the thing that can hurt the Democrats the most. Trump is really good at saying, I don't like something that Biden did or Obama did or whatever, and then repealing it and then just passing something with his name on it to say, see, it was my idea. But like with the NAFTA deal and the new NAFTA deal, right? It basically is the same NAFTA deal with a few different things in it. But Trump likes to do this. So could he repeal Obamacare, then create Trump Care to put his name on it, and it be essentially the same thing? Possibly, but that won't happen in time for the midterm elections. And of course, these 8 senators and who knows how many House Democrats might actually vote for that, saying, no, it's basically the same as Obamacare, and actually giving Trump all the credit. So that's the worst that can happen. All right, I wanted to talk about this because this is what everyone's talking about. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video and stuff. And if you want to give a super thanks, please do so below. Making these videos takes a little bit of time, so any little bit is greatly appreciated. So thank you all very much. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.